My beloved, understand this. Before a champion ever lifts a trophy, before the applause ever rains down like a mighty storm, before the world calls their name with reverence, they must first win the war within. You see, the mindset of a champion is not forged in the light. It is born in the shadows. It is in the quiet places, in the long nights and the tear-soaked pillows, that greatness begins to whisper its name. The champion does not seek comfort. They seek clarity. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They rise and walk even when the path is rugged and steep. A champion, my dear, is not simply one who wins. A champion is one who refuses to quit, one who hears the echo of doubt and says, "Not today," one who stares at failure and answers, "This too shall serve me." They understand that stumbling is not the same as falling, and that defeat is not denial, it is direction. A champion uses every scar, every ache, every no, and turns it into fuel for the journey ahead. For it is the furnace of adversity that tempers the steel of the soul. You see, we live in a world that often celebrates the shine, but ignores the shaping. We marvel at the diamond, but we forget the pressure. In the deep dark of night, in the silence when prayers are whispered between clenched teeth, in the waiting rooms of heartbreak, in the storm-tossed boats of loneliness. That is where champions are born. A champion is not made when the light is brightest. No, my darling, a champion is made when all lights have gone out. And still, they choose to move forward. You must understand that greatness is not the child of Eve. It is the offspring of resistance. It is what happens when a soul says, "I will not give up," again and again until giving up forgets its name. There is a fire that burns in the belly of the bold. Not the loud, not the boastful, but the bold. The quiet warriors who carry their pain with poise, who stand firm while the earth beneath them quakes. Champions are carved by crisis. It is not the gold around their necks, but the grit in their hearts that sets them apart. For every story you hear of victory, there's a chapter soaked in struggle. Behind every medal, there are moments of madness, of questioning, of crying out to a silent sky, and wondering if the journey is even worth it. And yet, they press on, not because the path is easy, but because the promise is worth it. A champion understands that pain is a professor. It teaches lessons comfort could never speak. Adversity is the whetstone upon which their will is sharpened. And so they do not curse the storm. They learn to dance in the rain, to speak courage into the cold, to lift their heads when their hearts are low. It is in the stretching that they grow. It is in the breaking that they become whole. Because it is a strange truth, isn't it, that we are often made whole in the places we thought would destroy us. The pressure reveals the pearl. The fire reveals the gold. The wound reveals the warrior. And so, my dear, never be ashamed of your struggle. Never be ashamed of the dark seasons, for they are not your end, they are your beginning. You are being forged. You are being formed. You are being prepared to carry something greater than you imagined. Do not envy the ease of another. Do not trade your process for their appearance, because what looks like glory on the outside may be hollow within. But you, child, you are being fortified. You are being tempered like steel, and that strength, oh, that strength, cannot be taken by time or circumstance. Champions rise not because they are stronger, but because they are steadier. They rise because they have learned how to fall. They have learned how to get back up with dignity. They have learned how to walk through the fire without the flame owning them. And listen to me closely now. Champions are not immune to fear. They feel it. Oh, yes, they do. But they do not let it freeze them. They do not let it chain them. They feel the fear and still take the step. That is what separates them from the rest. They lean into the discomfort. They embrace the stretching. They see the mountain and begin to climb, not because they are certain of the summit, but because they are faithful in the step. And that is the kind of faith that moves not just mountains, but nations, hearts, and histories. So, if you find yourself in the furnace right now, do not despair. If the night feels long and the silence deafening, do not lose hope. You are in the fort, you are in the making. And when you emerge, you will not just wear victory, you will embody it. You will carry it in your walk, in your talk, in the way you enter a room without apology. Because you will know, deep down, that you did not just survive, you overcame, you conquered, and most importantly, you stayed true to your soul through it all. And that, my love, is what makes a champion. Not the cheers, not the trophies, but the quiet courage to keep going when no one is watching. The faith to believe that your becoming is more important than your arrival. The fire within that refuses to be extinguished. You are not just walking through this for nothing. You are being made. You are becoming. You are being prepared. And when the world finally sees you, they will not just see a winner. They will see a warrior, shaped by fire, strengthened by faith, and standing tall in the light of their truth. Let us speak plain. The world loves a winner, but rarely does it understand the weight of a warrior. The one who wears the smile but carries the scar. The one who stands tall, not because they've never been knocked down, but because they've learned how to rise again and again, like the tide, like the morning sun, like hope itself. You see, a champion is not defined by the glory they gather, but by the grit they show when glory is gone. It is not the chairs that make them, it is the choices they make when no one is watching. The mindset of a champion is rooted not in recognition, but in resilience. It is born from the courage to keep going when every voice around says stop. The champion, my dear, is acquainted with loss. They have been counted out, misunderstood, overlooked, and even betrayed. Yet they persist. They walk through the valley not with arrogance, but with assurance. They understand that the journey is not meant to be easy. It is meant to shape them. They have learned to sit in the discomfort of delay, to trust the wisdom of waiting, and to stand tall under the weight of disappointment. And yet, listen now, they do not fold, they do not fade. They do not give in to the silence of sorrow. They hold fast to the vision that pulled them forward in the first place. They remember why they started when the pain tempts them to stop. The truth is, resilience is a quiet strength. It is not always loud, it does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers. One more step. Sometimes it breathes. You can still make it. It is not flashy, but it is faithful. Resilience says, I may be tired, but I'm not finished. It says, this wound hurts, but it won't define me. It says, they may have doubted me, but I still believe. That is what makes a champion. The power to persist when it would be easier to retreat. The grace to hold on, not because it's convenient, but because quitting would mean betraying the fire within. We must stop telling our children that strength looks like standing tall without shaking. No, My love, strength often looks like shaking while standing anyway. Strength is crying in the dark, but still rising at dawn. Strength is being told you're not enough, and still daring to try. A champion is not the person who never breaks. They are the person who learns how to bend without snapping. They've learned how to bleed without bitterness, how to struggle without surrender. They do not allow failure to call them by name. They know who they are, and even when the path is unclear, they walk like they are called, because they are. You cannot buy resilience. You cannot borrow it or beg for it. You earn it through the living, through heartbreak and hope, through waiting rooms, through rejection and redirection, through the holy work of keeping your heart soft while the world tries to harden you. A champion learns to love themselves through it all, not just when they win, but when they lose, not just when the sun is shining, but when the clouds hang low, because they understand that every moment, even the broken ones, are building something inside of them. And that something is stronger than applause. It is mightier than medals. It is the soul of a survivor, the spirit of a victor, the heartbeat of one who will not be moved. They are not interested in pleasing crowds. They are committed to fulfilling purpose. You must know the difference, for fame fades and applause ends, but purpose, purpose, it remains. A champion lives by principle, not popularity. They speak truth even when truth costs them. They walk with integrity even when deception would be easier. They stay rooted in their calling even when distractions pull at every corner of their lives. Because champions are not sustained by external praise. They are anchored by internal peace. So if you have stumbled, you are in good company. If you have been hurt, you are not alone. If you have doubted yourself, know that every champion has too. But the secret is they didn't stay there. They got up. They tried again. They forgave, released, and rose. They let the pain teach them, not trap them. And now they walk not with arrogance, but with assurance. Not with ego, but with endurance. Because the truest victory, my dear, is not when others applaud you, but when you can look in the mirror and say, I didn't give up on me. Faith, child, is the soil in which the spirit of a champion grows. It is the unseen hand that steadies the trembling heart, the quiet voice that says, you are not alone, even when the room is empty and the hour is dark. A true champion does not walk by what they see. Oh, no. They walk by what they know deep down, what they believe. Sight will show you the storm, but faith will whisper of the shore beyond. Sight will tell you it's impossible, but faith will remind you that with God, all things are possible. A champion carries faith like armor, not shiny, not loud, but strong, enduring, ever-present. When the world offers fear, faith stands firm and says, I believe still. You must understand, faith is not always about feeling good. It is about trusting, even when you don't feel anything at all. There are days when the champion's knees buckle, but their soul still stands. There are nights when tears fall freely, but hope remains. That hope, that deep, unwavering, unshakable belief, is the lifeblood of a champion. Faith gives them the strength to look at a mountain and start climbing, not because they see the top, but because they trust in the one who walks beside them. They know that they were not made to crumble. They were made to rise, and their rising is wrapped in faith. A champion's faith is not blind. It is brave. It sees the odds. It knows the pain. It has counted the cost, but it chooses to believe anyway. That kind of faith does not deny reality. It defies it. It says, I know what it looks like, but I believe in what it can be. It looks at a barren field and still plants seeds. It looks at an empty cup and still pours love. It sees brokenness and still offers healing. That is the power of faith. It refuses to surrender to despair. It carries light into the dark and dares it not to shine. You see, faith is not just the beginning. It is the bridge. It carries the champion from trial to triumph, from heartbreak to healing, from doubt to destiny. Without faith, the weight of the world is too much. But with faith, the weight becomes a workout, and the struggle becomes strength. A champion does not pray for an easier path. They pray for stronger legs. They don't ask to be spared from the storm. They ask to be anchored through it. And that prayer, that posture of surrender mixed with courage, is what makes them unstoppable. Faith gives birth to vision. And vision gives the champion direction. Where others drift, they walk with purpose. Where others waver, they stand, not because they have every answer, but because they know who holds the answers. They don't always know how the story will unfold, but they trust the author. And in that trust, they find peace, even in chaos, even in confusion, even in crisis. Their soul is steady because their anchor is not in applause or approval. It is in something higher, something holier. A champion's faith also gives them a different kind of strength, the strength to wait. Waiting, you see, is not weakness. It is warfare. It is choosing to be still when every part of you wants to run. It is trusting God's timing when your own heart aches for answers. It is believing that the delay is not a denial, but a divine setup. Champions understand this. They do not rush to process because they know that what is for them cannot pass them. They trust the planting season because they know the harvest will come. And don't you think for a moment that faith makes life easy? No, darling. It simply makes it bearable. It makes it meaningful. It adds purpose to pain and depth to joy. It transforms obstacles into opportunities and trials into testimonies. Faith does not eliminate struggle. It gives it a reason. It teaches the champion to look beyond the now and reach toward the not yet. And in that reach, they grow. They stretch. They become. And the becoming, that is the most beautiful part of the journey. Faith also humbles the champion, for they know they are not where they are by strength alone. They have been carried, they have been covered, they have been kept. And so they walk not with pride, but with praise. Their confidence is not arrogance, it is assurance. It is knowing that if God brought them this far, He will not leave them now. That certainty becomes their song, their rhythm, their steady drumbeat in a chaotic world. Better the melody of every champion who has dared to believe when others doubted, who has dared to hope when others gave up. So let your faith rise. Let it rise higher than your fear. Let it rise stronger than your sorrow. Let it guide your steps and guard your heart. For faith, my dear, is the foundation. It is the wellspring of courage, the womb of dreams, the breath of champions. And when all else fails, when the world grows silent and the path grows dim, it is faith that will carry you forward. It is faith that will remind you, you were born for this. You were made to soar. You were crafted for greatness, carved by divine hands and called to walk in light. And with faith as your foundation, no fall is final and no dream is too distant. There is a kind of fire that cannot be taught in classrooms or bought in stores. It lives deep within the bones. It burns quiet, steady, unshakable. That fire is discipline. It is the backbone of the champion. It is the difference between wishing and working, between dreaming and doing, between starting something and seeing it through. Champion does not rise on talent alone. Talent may open the door, but it is discipline that keeps you in the room. It is discipline that wakes you before the sun, that moves your feet when your heart feels heavy, that reminds you that greatness was never meant to be convenient. It was meant to be cultivated. The champion understands that success is not born in bursts of inspiration, but in the slow grind of commitment. They do not wait for motivation to visit them like a guest. They train themselves to move even when motivation is nowhere to be found. For they know that emotions are fleeting, but discipline is faithful. It does not care how you feel. It only asks, will you show up? The champion answers yes. Yes, I will show up. Yes, I will do the work. Yes, I will carry the load. Even when the crowd is gone, even when the cheers are silent, even when the results are slow to come. Discipline is the art of saying no to now so you can say yes to what's ahead. It is choosing focus over frenzy, purpose over pleasure, growth over comfort. And my goodness, comfort is a cunning thief. It will lull you into mediocrity, whispering sweet nothings in your ear while robbing you of the life you were born to live. But the champion knows better. They know that comfort never births greatness. It is challenge that stretches, strain that strengthens, struggle that shapes. So they do not fear discomfort. They embrace it like an old friend. They walk through it like fire, and they come out refined. It is in the quiet hours that champions are made. When no one is clapping. When the finish line is far. When the goal seems like a fantasy and the grind feels like a burden. Still, they keep going. They understand that discipline is not about perfection. It is about consistency. It is not about always getting it right. It is about always returning, always realigning, always recommitting. They know that discipline is not a prison. It is a path. It does not confine them. It frees them. They know that discipline is not a prison. It is a path. It does not confine them. It frees them. They know that discipline is not grants them the power to become who they were meant to be, and discipline does not begin with the body. It begins with the mind. For before your feet can walk in purpose, your mind must first believe in the path. The champion trains their thoughts. They speak life over their journey. They guard their eyes, their ears, their hearts from poison and distraction. They do not entertain every voice. They do not chase every opinion. They are rooted, focused, grounded, because they know that where the mind goes, the life follows. So they plant thoughts of victory. They water them with repetition. They protect them with practice. They harvest them through action. Now hear me clearly. Discipline is not glamorous. It is often lonely. It is often misunderstood. Folks will call you obsessed when you're only committed. They'll say you're missing out when really you're just tuning in. They'll question your choices, your timing, your path. But the champion does not live for validation. They live for vision. And they know that the greatest rewards come not from being understood, but from being faithful. So they walk alone when they must. They sacrifice when it's needed. And they keep their eyes on the horizon, even when the road beneath them shakes. The world will tempt you to settle, to give in, to give up. But the champion resists the pull of the easy way. They choose the climb, the daily work, the sacred grind. And it is sacred because every disciplined step is a prayer of becoming. Every early morning, every quiet effort, every repeated task, every delayed gratification. It is all part of a sacred process, a transformation not only of circumstance but of character. The discipline that builds your body also builds your soul. It humbles, it molds, it refines. It teaches you patience. It teaches you grace. It teaches you to love yourself enough to hold yourself accountable. Discipline, my dear, is not the enemy of freedom. It is the door to it. For once you master yourself, there is little in this world you cannot face. A champion is not one who controls the world. They are one who has learned to control themselves, their tongue, their temper, their time, and that kind of mastery. Oh, it is rare. It is radiant. It is revolutionary. It turns ordinary men and women into leaders, into legends, into light bearers. So when the path grows long, and your feet grow tired, and your dreams feel distant, remember the gift of discipline. It will not always feel good, but it will always do good. And though others may not see your effort, trust me, it is seen. It is storing up strength. It is sowing seeds, and in due time it will bloom. There is a sacred thread that weaves its way through every great life, a quiet yet mighty force that carries champions from their knees to their destiny. That thread, my dear, is perseverance. Not the loud kind, not the boastful kind, but the kind that whispers, keep going, when the world screams, give out. Perseverance is the soul's steady drumbeat, the heart's echo through the valley, the wind beneath tired wings. It is the gentle hand that lifts you after failure, the strong spine that holds you upright when the weight of life leans in too heavy. A true champion is not the one who has never fallen. They are the one who has fallen 100 times and risen 101. There are days when life is not kind, when the road ahead feels like it was carved out of stone and suffering, when your tears outnumber your triumphs, and your dreams begin to feel like burdens. Oh yes, those days come. But the champion does not let the darkness determine their direction. They do not pack up and go home when the storm comes. They press forward, not because it is easy, but because something inside them refuses to die. That something is perseverance. It is the refusal to be defeated. It is the belief that every no will one day bow to a yes. That every delay is not a denial, but a divine preparation. So they keep walking, one step, one breath, one prayer at a time. You see, perseverance is not a sprint, it is a lifetime's journey. It is the courage to walk through the valley of rejection and still hold your head high. It is waking up each morning and deciding that your story is not finished, even when the pages seem blank. It is trusting that the ink of your life is still flowing, that every scar you carry is a line in a poem that will one day make the world weep with understanding. A champion understands that success does not arrive on schedule. It arrives when it's earned, and earning it takes endurance. It takes patience. It takes time. Perseverance is quiet strength. It does not always shout or shine. Sometimes it looks like showing up to a job you don't love, because you've got mouths to feed and a future to build. Sometimes it's finishing the race with bruises and breathlessness, but still finishing. Sometimes it's holding on to a dream so tightly that your knuckles bleed, but you do not loosen your grip. And in a world that glorifies instant results, perseverance reminds us that real growth is slow, that healing takes time, that greatness is not microwaved. It is marinated, slow cooked in the fires of trial and time. Now let me tell you, perseverance is not proud. It is humble. It does not expect ease. It does not demand applause. It simply moves forward. And forward is enough. Forward is faith in motion. A champion may bend, but they do not break. They may cry, but they do not quit. And that, beloved, is what makes them extraordinary. not their victims.